Picture the earliest human face you can imagine. Sloped forehead, heavy brow, eyes that watch everything. Now picture them standing over a dead animal on the African savanna. They need to communicate something urgent. A predator is close, and they have no words. None. Not a single one. What happens next kept our species alive for longer than language has even existed. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and every word is gone. Not just your ability to speak, no labels, no names, no inner voice narrating your thoughts. You can still feel fear. You can still love people. You can still want things. You just can't explain any of it. Now hold that feeling. Because for the first part of human history, that was every single morning for every single person alive. Right now, there's a voice inside your head. It's reading these words. It comments on your day. It replays embarrassing moments from 5 years ago. Most people assume that voice is what makes them human. But here's the strange part. Humans were already human long before that language existed. They buried their dead. They made art. They taught their children. They fell in love. And they did it all without language. So what exactly were your ancestors doing before words existed? The answer is far stranger than most people realize. Let's start with what we actually know. Modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. If you stood next to one of your ancestors from 250,000 years ago, they would look surprisingly familiar. But language is harder to track. Scientists have spent decades trying to figure out when language first appeared. And the truth is, nobody knows for sure. Some researchers think language emerged around 100,000 years ago. Others argue it could be older. But almost everyone agrees on one thing. For a huge portion of human existence, our ancestors lived without anything resembling modern language. And they weren't sitting around waiting for it to arrive. They were already doing things that should have been impossible. In 2018, archaeologists studying ancient sites in Morocco found something strange. A collection of eagle talons. Small holes had been drilled through them. The talons had been arranged intentionally, almost certainly worn on the body. Think about how weird that is. An eagle talon doesn't help you hunt. It doesn't keep you warm. It doesn't protect you from predators. Someone spent valuable time creating something purely symbolic. It was jewelry, made roughly 120,000 years ago, by people who may not have had language. Before your ancestors had a word for beauty, they already understood beauty. Before they had a word for status, they already cared about status. Before they had a word for identity, they already had one. That's the first thing language didn't create. Identity came first, the word came later. But here's where things get difficult. Jewelry is one thing. Teaching is another. How do you pass knowledge from one generation to the next without words? Imagine you're sitting beside a fire 150,000 years ago. An older hunter picks up a stone. He strikes it carefully.
Once, twice, 3 times, and sharp edge appears. He doesn't explain anything. He can't. There are no instructions, no lectures, no vocabulary. He simply hands the stone to you, and you watch. Then you copy.
And modern neuroscience suggests this may have been enough. Your brain contains specialized systems built for imitation and observational learning. When you watch somebody perform an action, parts of your brain activate as if you were performing the action yourself. You're not just seeing the movement, you're rehearsing it. Scientists call this action observation, and humans are exceptionally good at it, because the oldest known stone tools are about 3.3 million years old. Language, at least in its modern form, is vastly younger. That means generations of humans were teaching increasingly complex skills without speaking a word. And the evidence suggests it worked remarkably well. Stone tools became more sophisticated. Hunting strategies improved.
Knowledge survived, not through words, through observation, through imitation, through proximity.
But teaching skills is one thing. What about emotions? What about grief? What about conflict? How do you build a society when nobody can explain how they feel? The answer may be that language was never the primary system in the first place. Even today, most human communication isn't verbal. A raised eyebrow, a smile, a clenched jaw. The distance between two people standing in a room. Your brain reads all of this automatically. You don't consciously calculate it. You just know. And that system is ancient, far older than language. But there was something else operating below conscious awareness entirely, something modern science has only recently begun to measure: emotional contagion, the automatic, involuntary transmission of feeling from one body to another. You have experienced this your entire life without ever being told it has a name. You walk into a room and immediately feel the tension before a single word is spoken. A baby in a hospital ward begins to cry, and within minutes, every baby in the ward is crying, none of them knowing why. This is not empathy. Empathy requires conscious recognition. Emotional contagion is older and faster than that. It bypasses thought entirely. Neuroscientists believe this system is rooted in mirror neurons, a class of brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you watch someone else perform it. Your brain does not cleanly distinguish between feeling something and watching someone else feel it. For a group of early humans huddled together in the dark, this was not a flaw. It was the alarm system. One member of the group feels fear. Their body changes. Their pupils dilate. Their breathing shallows. Their muscles tighten. And before a single sound is made, the people closest to them are already beginning to feel it too. No words required. This is how they survived the nights they couldn't see what was coming. And then there's the question nobody asks. What was happening inside their minds? Your ancestors had brains almost identical to yours, same hardware, same capacity for memory, same ability to recognize patterns. So what were they thinking about? Modern neuroscience offers a surprising answer. Language may not create thought. It may simply organize it. In studies where language processing is disrupted, people often remain capable of solving problems, recognizing relationships, and making decisions. The thoughts still happen. The narration disappears. It's the difference between experiencing a storm and describing a storm. The storm still exists. You just don't have words for it. Your ancestors lived inside that storm every day. They planned hunts, recognized danger, avoided enemies, raised children, made decisions, all without an internal voice explaining what was happening. For most of human history, consciousness may have felt less like a conversation and more like direct experience. But here's the part that changes everything. In 2015, archaeologists working in a cave system in South Africa found the remains of Homo naledi, an early human relative with a brain roughly 1/3 the size of yours. By every measure scientists had previously used, a brain that small should not have been capable of complex social behavior. And yet the bones were deliberately placed. The bodies had been carried deep into the cave through passages so narrow only the smallest individuals could fit. There were no predator marks, no signs of flooding. Someone had brought them there, on purpose, in the dark, which means they had planning, they had cooperation, they had, in some form we do not yet have a word for, something that functioned like intention toward their dead. They did not have language, but they had something that language would later try to describe. At some point, something happened. A sound stopped being just a sound. It became a symbol, a thing that could stand in for something else. We don't know when. We don't know where. What we do know is that once a sound could reliably carry meaning from one brain to another, everything changed. Because now information could survive the moment it was created. You could describe tomorrow. You could warn someone about a place they'd never visited. You could tell a story about somebody who died years ago. You could share ideas across time. Language didn't invent culture, it gave culture a storage device. For the first time, knowledge could live outside a single human mind. And once that happened, everything accelerated. Today, you can instantly communicate with someone on the other side of the planet. Your ancestors couldn't speak a single sentence. And yet somehow they spent more time together than most people do now. Language allowed us to communicate across distance. Before language existed, humans solved that problem another way. They stayed close enough that they didn't need it. Language did not wake us up. We were already awake. It didn't create the feeling. It just gave us a way to hand it to each other. To say, this is what I know, and now you know it too. For 2 million years, your ancestors felt everything you feel. They feared and loved and grieved and wondered. They looked up at the same stars and understood in whatever way a wordless mind understands anything, that the world was vast and they were small inside it. They did not need language to become human. They already were. Language simply gave a voice to something that had been there all along.